radioed the ambulance and told them they were no longer needed and sent them away. We obtained the radio logs from the sheriff's department that show all this happening. So my dad had an untreated heart attack because of all of this, and he didn't live much longer because of this kind of brutal mistreatment, and the agents knew how close I was to my father.
This wasn't negligence. This wasn't incompetence. They knew what they were doing. They knew exactly who they were raiding. They knew who was in the house. They knew their health conditions. They knew their medical conditions. They literally told the ambulance to go away after an elderly man complains of having a heart attack. They murdered your father, Julia. I know you know that, but they did. I hope the audience understands that Homeland Security, out of a perverse sense of retribution, decided to murder an elderly man just to satisfy a political agenda. I'm sorry, callers. We're going to be sticking to Julia's story. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show. Welcome back to The Alex Jones Show. This is Holland Van de Nieuwenhof. We're talking to Julia Davis. Stay tuned after this. Actually, after we talk to Julia, we have a clip from last night's show. Larry Pratt of Gun Owners of America talking about the Colorado shooting and his take on what he thinks that the fix may be in on the horror in Aurora. Then we'll be playing that clip after we talk to Julia. Callers, I am sorry. I apologize. But we have a fire hose of information for you today, and we're unleashing. We're opening up the faucet. We're tearing the faucet out of the wall, and we are here to present this information. We got Julia Davis on the line. Her documentary documenting her story. Top priority, the enemy within. This story sounds outrageous. I know. It is outrageous. We know that. But it is on tape. It is documented. And Homeland Security, they messed with the wrong people. Because Julia and BJ, they had the will and the determination to clear their name and to fight back. But Julia, we were talking about how Homeland Security basically conspired and succeeded in murdering your father. But those aren't the only people. You were talking about the witness who filmed the raid on your house, the footage which you feature in your documentary. He later died of mysterious circumstances. Is that correct?
Yes, the very neighbor who filmed the raid, who realized that the agents noticed him during the filming, he was extremely terrified of the situation. And when he finally came to me with the tape, he was literally shaking. He said he was very worried about handing it over, but finally decided to do it because it was the right thing to do. And he wrote a statement where he also described what he witnessed, described the agents taking boxes out of the house when they didn't even have a search warrant, and they later tried to deny taking things. And only weeks after turning the tape over to us, the neighbor, Matthew Judd, who was only 25 years old, was suddenly found dead in his home. And he was alone and just found on his couch. And years later, there still hadn't been a proper investigation. His death certificate says that the disposition is pending, and there is no coherent explanation as to what exactly happened to this young man.
Like I said, this story is documented in the movie that you just premiered in L.A., is that correct?
Yes, we started our theatrical release in New York, and then it was followed by Los Angeles, and we just finished that portion of the theatrical rollout.
Exactly, because this is going to the big screens. The big boys are going to see this, and this is great because y'all had the connections, y'all had the willpower, you had the means and the tools and the willpower to make this movie and put it out there for people to see what this government is capable of. Julia, we only have about 2 minutes. I'm sorry, but we need to get to another crucial point of your story, is the death of Brittany Murphy. Was her death related to your case?
It possibly could have been because Brittany was named as a witness in my case. One of the 54 investigations against me included Department of Homeland Security claiming that Brittany Murphy told them that I was working on a film with my husband during the same time when I was working for Homeland Security. And Brittany confirmed that that was a lie, that she never made such a statement. And as soon as she refuted Homeland Security's allegations, her life became a living nightmare.
And she reported this to the Hollywood press, that she was being followed, that helicopters were following her, and they mocked her. And then she died under very mysterious circumstances. A healthy young actress. God knows Hollywood stars have a very low shelf life, but she was not involved in the lifestyle that would attribute to that. And she winds up dead, and so does her husband.
Yes, because she reported to the Hollywood Reporter, which printed a story called The Less Difficult Days of Brittany Murphy. She had told Alex Van Block of the Hollywood Reporter that she was being followed by helicopters and is wiretapped, and she was made fun of and called paranoid or being on drugs, and had lost jobs because of that, and her career had spiraled out of control. The Homeland Security tried to deport her husband just the way they tried to deport me. And there are a lot of similarities. The same office of ICE, also from San Diego.
Immigration Customs Enforcement.
Exactly, Immigration Customs Enforcement. And they had also were planning to bring marriage fraud charges against Brittany and Simon that we recently found that out through FOIA requests. So the similarities are endless. So even after they tried to deport her husband, that wasn't over yet. The Homeland Security was still planning to bring more charges.
Julia, this story is outrageous, and people need to see it. Where can they check out your documentary?
Please visit topprioritymovie.com. That's our official website. That's topprioritymovie.com. And we'll be posting more information there as we continue to premiere the film across the country.
We'll be right back after this. Thank you, Julia. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I am a guest co-host, Holland Van Den Nieuwenhof, joined by
Chris Emery, Free Mind Films, Oklahoma City.
We are from Free Mind Films in Oklahoma City, writers, producers for A Noble Lie, the documentary which you can catch in the info shop about the Oklahoma City bombing. We've had a number of fascinating guests on today. Andrew Griffin, Stephanie Sledge, and we topped it off with Julia Davis. A much too short interview. In the future, we will have her on again to expand on that story. It is indeed fascinating. Callers, we will be getting to you in just a couple minutes. There are a couple clips and a couple topics that we have to cover, very topical, before we bid farewell today. First of all, Larry Pratt was on the Alex Jones Show last night. Larry Pratt of Gun Owners of America. For those of you who don't know, GOA is the only no-compromise gun lobby working in Congress to preserve your gun rights. Now, you can give the NRA some credit, but you can't give it too much, and you can criticize the NRA a lot for caving on a lot of crucial gun control legislation, compromising where compromise was not needed nor necessary. Some have even accused the NRA of being kind of the gatekeepers of the money that goes to fund gun rights in this country. But if anything, the GOA is the real deal. If you want to know compromise gun lobby, look up GOA, look up Larry Pratt, the longtime head. He was on Alex Jones Show last night, and he's saying, and Larry Pratt's a pretty mainstream guy, and he put his neck out there. He's saying that Colorado is fishy. Guys, let's go to that clip. Let's review what Larry Pratt had to say.
A week later in the aftermath, what is the intel you've got on this shooting in Colorado? Am I wrong for being suspicious?
I don't think you're wrong. I would have disagreed with you before Fast and Furious because I never in my wildest fears would have thought that our government would actually premeditatedly kill some 400 Mexicans have been murdered and a couple of our U.S. agents. So after we caught them planning premeditatedly for a program that would get people murdered, one of the whistleblowers submitted a report on weekly briefings at ATF. And when the head of the ATF at the time would be given the increase in body counts in Mexico, he would say things like, good, the program's working. Well, so this was no mistake. This was not a sting operation gone bad. This was premeditated murder. Well, if our government would do that, then even though I think the evil of the human heart is sufficient to account for somebody that wants to go and shoot people at random, we've had, since we've been keeping records in this country, this has happened every few years since the 1870s. 10, 20, 30 people being murdered at a time. By the way, long before semi-automatics were available to people. So this is what human beings are capable of. And now we have to admit that maybe this is something that our government is capable of, because this is only 12 people murdered. They were good for 400 in Fast and Furious. Wow.
That was
well
Larry,
said. I've seen Mexico.
That was Larry Pratt on the Alex Jones show last night, Prisonplanet.tv. And he has a very good point. Fast and Furious exposes the depravity of this government. If what we've presented on the show isn't enough, look at least what's being covered to some extent in the mainstream media. Fast and Furious, Chris.
Fast and Furious, boy, there's Eric Holder, affiliated with the Oklahoma City case, covered up, and his entourage and his office staff covered up the Kenny Trinity murder, brutal torture murder. We
talk about that in The Noble Lie, the murder of Kenny Trinity. Eric Holder made his bones covering that up, and now he's in charge of Fast and Furious.
The very same gun shop in Arizona that actually tried to get a case out which preceded Fast and Furious in Arizona. Jesse Trinity, Kenny's brother, found this out through FOIA requests and documents that it's the same gun shop in 1995. They tried to pull that stunt. Didn't work. Weren't able to get the resources together. And they finally made it work, in the last 4 years. You have Border Patrol agents, innocent civilians on both sides of the border, brutally murdered with weapons that the United States government shipped into Mexico to have at the hands of disposable of gangs and Mexican drug cartels. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and you have Larry Pratt saying this is not a sting gone bad. There is no way to account for weapons after they go across the border, and they're shipping them across the border. And the emails from the prosecutor's office of the Arizona Federal Prosecutor's Office have come out, and they are openly saying they're going to use the gun violence that is being fanned by the weapons from Fast and Furious to push for more restrictions on long gun purchases in America. By definition, in their own words, a false flag attack, precipitating, executing mass murder to fulfill a political agenda.
Put this in context, people. We have Eric Holder, our Attorney General. He was a Deputy Attorney General in Oklahoma City, and there is no love lost between our film crew and this animal for what he did in Oklahoma City on that case. That's not even up for debate anymore. Then you have Hillary Clinton, our Secretary of State, and President Calderon from Mexico, knowing full well that this operation was going down, calling for the ban of guns in the United States when it had nothing to do with it. That it doesn't get any more insidious than that.
Yeah, and the argument's ridiculous in itself because Mexico, the country, has some of the strictest gun control restrictions on the planet. In fact, it's in their constitution that citizens are now not allowed to own a firearm more powerful than that used by the police or military. So at least they're very apparent in their purpose of gun control, that literally the citizens cannot fight back. Yet we have open warfare on the streets of the border towns in Mexico, largely fanned by the largest gun smuggler in American history, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And applying that standard to what's happening in Colorado, we cannot put anything past this government. And that is even seeping over into the mainstream. Fox News covered this to some extent. Some of the questions they have about the incident in Colorado, the horror in Aurora. Do we have that clip up and ready? Excellent. If we do, let's play it any time. Do we have it? Okay. We'll play it as soon as it's ready. Here we go.
Emergency crews hadn't left the scene of the Colorado theater shooting before a lot of lawmakers, politicians, and members of the media were already asking questions about how gun laws have to change. But what questions about the shooting are the media not asking? Ben has the reality check you won't see anywhere else.
We're going to look at this debate from two angles. Tonight, part one, the questions the national media aren't asking. I don't need to go into a lot of details on this shooting because most every American is familiar with the basics. Police say 24-year-old James Holmes went into that theater in Aurora, Colorado. He was dressed in black, wearing a tactical helmet, vest, and leggings, as well as throat and groin protectors. Police say Holmes used an AR-15 assault rifle, a Remington shotgun, and a .40 caliber Glock handgun during that attack. And police say they